Welcome. My name is Daniel Durley and I'm the president of the Global Young Entrepreneur Society, an international organization supporting exceptional young people in accomplishing their entrepreneurial ambitions. Co-hosting the interview with me today is Louis Swire, director of GYES and a founder of The Curious Times. Joining us today is Ricardo Jimenez, prolific angel investor, entrepreneur, and author. He has invested in a wide range of industries, from a gold mine in Paraguay to cryptocurrencies to a logistics company in Pakistan. He got his MBA from Duke University and has been to over 80 countries. We are very pleased to welcome Ricardo Jimenez.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for the very kind introduction.
Thank you so much for coming on. You recently published your first book entitled Crash Course, in which you detail your journey with your first startup. Can you please introduce the book to our audience?
I think the best way to do it is to think about all the books that are out there about startups and about entrepreneurship. And the ones that I read and the ones that I see mostly focus on the company. And they tell you how to build a specific area of the startup, call it pitch to an investor, hiring your first people, finding product market fit. So when they talk about how to make the company work, but they don't talk about the person that needs to make the company work, the entrepreneur. They talk about the startup, but not about the founder. And this book is written for the founder, because I think it's a really hard job. We're trying to do something that has never been done before, and it usually comes with lots of challenges that we can explore more during the interview. But that's a key of the. I think that's one of the key differentiators of this book.
Thank you so much. That sounds absolutely fascinating, and of course, we recommend that all of the listeners buy and read the book as soon as you can. How do you balance your diverse interests, from kite surfing to motorbike riding, with the demands of being an entrepreneur and investor?
I'm learning with time is that I cannot balance every day or even every week. It's more through periods of time. So now I'm launching the book. The book came out a couple of days ago. I'm in Miami now for a book presentation event. So right now it's all about the book. How much more bike riding, kite surfing I'm going to do these few weeks? Very little. However, in other months, maybe towards the year, I will have the opportunity to focus more on on other hobbies. I mean, in August, I'm going to be in the meditation center again. So yeah, I need to realize that maybe the weeks, maybe even the months may be out of balance, but hopefully over a year or a couple of years, I'll be able to do deeply all these different areas of life. Sometimes when you are very involved, passionate, when you're putting everything that you have, you need to go deep, and that requires time. So yeah, sometimes I just need to focus on one thing for maybe a few months, a few weeks, and then maybe to another thing. When I am not launching a project, yes, I try to have more balanced days. But again, it's evolving. It's evolving. It changes.
Can you please describe the story of the startup you talk about in the book?
America, in Austin, Texas, and I had a friend. We're both very entrepreneurial. We started exchanging ideas for a startup, and the one that we decided on was toys in the shape of countries. And there's three reasons why we chose that one. First, we both cared about that. I think we both have been around 30, 40 countries in the world. And the way that I feel we talk about the world is usually, or the news that we see in the world is negative at in a mass level, not at the individual level. Also, we wanted something that we could start on the side. We had no funding. We were very new. Everything for us was very new. But the last thing that I thought was very exciting about the idea is how you can see the product line grow. How we started with 4 countries, but then you can see we could do 200 countries. Even anything that has a shape, we could make it into a toy or a character, a city, a university campus. And then I had this idea of connecting the kids of the world, so I could see technology, a theme park. So one of the things that I realized as an entrepreneur with time is that we think so much about our ideas and about the possibilities that we create all these big worlds for the things that we believe in, and that's what ended up happening to us. We had this big vision. So we launched this company, and we had this idea that we will build it, and then the customers will come. And that didn't happen. It was a surprise for us that we hadn't even considered. In retrospect, I could think we were extremely naive or extremely ignorant, but we were very linear. I had this, my thinking process was, let's have an idea, or let's build a concept, let's build a prototype, create the product, organize logistics, and then we will sell it. And then when it was time to sell it, we didn't. And looking back, one of the things that it's very easy to see is that before you build a big company, a big logistics company, because we had a distribution center in Europe, another one in the US. So before you go into all that, you want to make sure that you're building something that people want. And that's something that we just assumed. And as we started, or as I started to meet other entrepreneurs, then I realized that all these new products that are coming into market, so many people are trying to make their own little dream happen. And we were just so focused on ourselves that we missed having this interaction with the market and having this feedback as soon as possible to either refine the product or realize refine it, pivot, or maybe even decide whether this makes sense for the market or not, or are we the right people to do it or not. So it's a struggle. So at the beginning, you face the challenge of not selling, but then so you come up with more ideas, you try more things, you try harder, and it's a journey of trying to find the right market for your product in a way in which we weren't able to do. Yeah, I'll share a couple of stories in the book to make it more specific. For a couple of years, and they told me, you need to go to this store. They're gonna love your product. For years, I tried to get the meeting with the store owner, and finally, I was able to do it. And it took me years. I got to meet the owner, and I had my toys in my bag. Very brief introduction. She was very cold. And I told her I had prepared the presentation. I was gonna show her the toys. And when I was about to pull them out from the bag, she told me there was no need for me to show her the toys. I told her, what do you mean? I mean, I came here to show you the toys. And she told me, no, I've already seen them on your website, and I thought they were too colorful and too branded. And then she pretty much told me to go. So yeah, you spend years trying to get a presentation, and then you're not able to actually give the final presentation. And I had many of those moments, and very often, sometimes it was from people who didn't really care much about me, but other times it was from people who really cared about me. I just wasn't able to get the traction. Another story that I share in the book, Crash Course, is how I talked for someone that I thought was a potential investor for 2 hours, and he was so patient looking at my investor deck, giving me all kinds of feedback about the market, about the product, about everything. And when the moment of truth came for me to ask him to invest, I told him, as you can see, we built an airplane. Now we just need to make it flight. And for that, we're going to need certain funds. And then he told me, this looks more than an airplane. It looks like a wheel to me, like a wheel of an airplane. So all these moments in which, I don't know if it's reality or hitting a wall, happen and yeah, they're very painful. And the journey of the entrepreneur is to go on overcoming those and hopefully learning, pivoting, and use each of these circumstances to improve the company and get it in a better shape. So it's more likelihood that it will start either selling products or getting the funding that it wants. I've been reading a lot about the risking, this idea of taking risk out of the company, and this is something that I did not do. We had an idea, we believed in it, and we went all in. And I think it's a little smarter in retrospect to take as much risk as possible from any idea before you continue investing in it.
Did you bring in outside investors?
I tried, but I didn't. I had many conversations, and they showed interest. But somewhere in the middle of the conversations, I will lose them. Yes, I wasn't able to.
You poured your savings into the company. Did you take on debt?
First it was savings, and then when I ran out of savings, because not only the company wasn't making money, I mean, I had to support both myself and the company. So yeah, I got a line of credit to continue for a few more months. Or a couple of years. I don't remember how much, but yes, yeah, I did take on that. I'm not sure that I would recommend it. At the same time, one of the bigger lessons is that each story is different. So sometimes you could be close to hitting a big milestone, and some dev could help you. But then we always believe under this illusion that we're about to hit a new milestone. So that's to say, I think it's in the idea. Ideally, you will get investors. So there's also a way to validate that what you're working has some validity, and also to have other partners and more people on board that care about you and they're on your side. So again, there's lots of ways to look at startup funding, and I think it's important for everyone to understand what level of risk they want to take, what's available for them, and what ultimately makes sense in each situation.
Your business partner started having doubts about the prospects of the business much sooner than you did. When did your perspective change about the potential in the business?
My business partner, I think he started having doubts now that I look at this very early. We did 4 toys. We had some marketing ideas that we tried to do. They didn't work. And my thinking was, this is not working because we need to create a story, an ecosystem. We need for kids to make sense about these toys. So we need a book. We need more toys. We need a play. We need an app. We need to find a way for our toys to be meaningful for kids. So my thinking was, this is not working. We need to build more product so everything comes together. My business partner's thinking was the opposite. It was, if this is not working, why are we going to invest more into this? So, and that, so that was some of the tension that we always had. And yes, he removed himself from the company, and at the end. So what I have thought about myself is, I love this idea. I think it can work. I've seen how people can get excited when they understand it. We have had some really good reviews, very early wins, and you think, I love this idea. I see the vision. I'm going to work into this, even if it takes my whole life. So that's how I always thought about that. But I think towards the 6th year, when I guess I had spent all the line of credit that I had, I wasn't sure what to do. The company wasn't working, and someone told me that there was a cost of opportunity for me to be doing what I was doing. And then I realized that it's true. This is not the only thing that I can do in my life. I could be doing other things. And that was very liberating for me.
After abandoning plush keys, what was your journey to becoming a successful angel investor?
So something's happened. So when I took this line of credit, I took some more. I took money not just for the company, but also to invest in Bitcoin. I had space, and I ran into this guy called David Johnston, who is now my friend, and he was coming from the Amsterdam Bitcoin conference. So I asked him about Bitcoin, and for half an hour, he talked to me about Bitcoin. This was 10 years ago. And I just asked, and when he told me that Bitcoin was the internet of money, um, that really stuck with me. And I was a struggling entrepreneur. I had no money, but those words were so powerful. The internet of money. I could see how the world had changed. How you guys are very young, and this maybe the world changed before you guys were born. But we didn't used to see TV like we do today. We consume music in a different way. What else? Music, movies, everything was before. So I could see how the world was changing, and I thought, I know money is a very sensitive topic. Money only changes, I don't know, maybe every 400 years, every 600 years. I don't know how often money changes. Certainly not very often. But still, I thought that it was an idea that could make sense. I could also see how young generations are more inclined to, I guess, to interacting with the tech companies than with banks, and how fintech is a thing. And I just thought this could make sense. The way I always thought about Bitcoin when I first heard about it, because I love to thinking in terms of risk-reward ratios. So I thought, yes, this could be maybe 5 times. So maybe gold could be, sorry. So this is how I thought about this. So Bitcoin could be 5 times riskier than gold, but it could give you 50 times the returns. And I thought these are the kind of bets that you want to make, because not only you want to get your bets right, but if you really want to get a big return, you need to be betting against the market. And I thought it was a risky bet, but that one made sense when I did it.
What motivated you to invest in such varied industries and geographies? So as Daniel mentioned at the beginning, a gold mine in Paraguay and a logistics company in Pakistan, very different. But what drew you?
So it's been many years. First, I was investing in crypto. I started with Bitcoin, but then it was other coins, many other coins. When those coins, some coins disappeared, lots of coins disappeared or did not do very well. But when others did better, I took some of those gains to invest in blockchain companies. So, and then from blockchain companies, I invested in broader tech companies. And then as I met more people and my circle expanded, I started getting opportunity, or having access to deal flow from over the world, and now those were very exciting. At some point, now I don't entertain this idea anymore. But at one point, I thought it would be cool to do an investment in a company in each country of the world. I thought it would be really cool to get to know the world through investing in companies of all countries. With time, I've realized that it's not practical, that I need to simplify. So that's probably something that I probably would not recommend, but it does bring you a lot of, it gets you closer to the world. You care about the world, you pay more attention, and having a friend in those countries, I think it opens my mind a lot, and it's very refreshing to be working with people, with locals in those countries. And sometimes I've had the feeling, and again, this is something that I'm also learning as an investor. An opportunity will come to me, and I will feel, oh, I am so lucky, I'm the chosen one. This opportunity came to me, so I better do something about it, right? But now that I have some experience and I see how many of the investments have not worked out, I'm trying to be a little bit more mature. So yes, I can think with my heart and I can make instinctive decisions in 10 minutes. But I am trying to, and I'm also now realizing that the funds are not limited. When some companies have not worked out and now other opportunities come, then I wish I hadn't invested in that one. So that's to say, I followed a little bit of the impulse of wanting to explore the world through investments. Now I'm balancing that with trying to have a little bit more rational approach and trying to find professionals. So I've invested in a few venture capital funds that work with startups, and I think it's a great way for me to protect myself against myself and to balance my more, I don't know, impulsive, emotional, with some rational as well. But this kind of investments from others that have a much bigger due diligence. So I like to now balance those things a little bit more.
How do you source deals or investments?
I have a formal process, but now that I've invested in several funds, very often share with partners their deals. I also have friends from over the world who are investors. So I don't really have a formal process. They come to me, and usually I try to find someone that that knows more than me in that, and I want to test their level of confidence. And a big test for me is if they are going to invest as well or not. And then again, I'm realizing that I cannot invest in everything that I like, so I need to compare some of the potential deals with others. And in general, try to do some things that are exciting for me and that I think I can have a great impact. Sometimes I like some more exotic investments, but I am trying to be more careful with those.
You invested in the token launch of Ethereum, the second largest cryptocurrency today. How did you find out about that opportunity?
He was in crypto from the very beginning. I didn't know anything about crypto, or didn't know anyone who knew anything about crypto. So I kept chasing him and asking him to meet again. Hey, let's meet again. When are you available? I was just trying to get some of his time again. And I remember we met in a coffee place in Austin, Panera. And then I asked him, what other coins would you recommend to me? First, I didn't know. When I first invested in Bitcoin, I probably didn't know there were other coins. But then I asked him, I started to read, and then he told me he was looking at other coins. No, his first answer was, I do not recommend, I cannot make recommendations. And people in the US are very careful with not recommending anything, because if that doesn't go well, someone could come and tell you, put the responsibility on you. So he did not want to share any particular names. So I remember I had to transform the question, and I asked him, what else are you looking at? And I thought that was a better question because, one, he was not making a recommendation, and two, I'd rather know where someone is putting their money than what it's coming through their mouth. So he said two coins. I think it was two or three. Two of them were, one was Ethereum and the other one was MadeSafe. So I went online. I guess I did that, and then during the ICO, this was one of the very early ICOs before they became popular in 2017. I had no idea what I was doing. I remember I didn't really understand the process. They were asking me for a password that I didn't know where I had to put or when I would have to use it later. They were telling me to that, but not keep it anywhere connected to the internet. I was getting all these instructions that I didn't understand. I didn't know what I was doing. So I did a little test. I got a file. I thought it worked, and then I put a little bit more. So I only put, well, I'll share. At that point, I was putting three Bitcoins as my investments, and Bitcoin was, let's say $500. But with this one, I was so insecure about what I was doing that I only put one. And again, I didn't put more, not because I didn't believe in the product, in the project, even though I didn't really know much about the project back then, but because I just had no idea what I was doing on the internet. But I still thought my lack of understanding, it's not going to stop me from investing in this. And that's how it happened.
So you invested one Bitcoin into Ethereum, so that would be a few $1,000,000?
One Bitcoin would be, so it depends. So the Bitcoin in Ethereum would probably, the investment of one Bitcoin in Ethereum would probably be a few $1,000,000. The one Bitcoin today, it's around 60 something dollars. So I went through a long process. So years later, in 2016, so Bitcoin was growing. I remember some days that Bitcoin was growing at 10%, January, February, March, at 10% against the dollar, but then other coins like Ethereum were growing 10% against Bitcoin every day. So I took all my Bitcoins and then I put them into Ethereum. But it's been a long process. Lots of things happened. Then other coins came up, and I put lots of ETH into them. Most of those coins have gone nowhere. Let's say overall, I've done well, but it's been, I mean, with all these years, all these investments, all these coins, lots of things have happened.
I want to take a step back and reflect on your career so far. And what has been the most unexpected challenge that you've faced?
I've worked in many different industries in different parts of the world. In London, my first job was in London as working on a Starbucks. I worked in Madrid, in Indonesia, in the Spanish embassy, in Miami, before the iPhone. So with selling ringtones and wallpapers, corporate America. So I've done many things, but I think the biggest challenge that has occupied my head the longest was when I was trying to make the company work. And it wasn't, I don't think it was, let's say, a particular moment, a particular challenge, but it felt more like a death in 1,000 cuts. So these, having the disappointment, but then again, the energy to come back, and the energy, again, another disappointment, another motivation to come back. I would remember that I was super motivated and I was very determined, but very often I would spend my mornings and I realized I haven't done anything that I had planned to do. And it wasn't because, again, I wasn't motivated. It's just that I was so overwhelmed, confused. I have a strategy, but my strategy is not working. But have I really executed properly? Do I need to execute better? Do I need to be doing something different? This lack of clarity of what even should I be doing, because what I'm doing is not working. That's what it was most challenging, and that's why I had to find a business coach. I never thought that I would get a business coach, but I was realizing that I just wasn't being productive, and it's not, again, and it was because I had all these emotions of confusion or frustration or fear, all these things that I feel are so common to humans and entrepreneurs, and we miss the human component, because we tell people how to analyze opportunities, but if you don't have the well-being or the clarity of the stability to think clearly, then you're not going to be able to follow the process. So again, I guess what I'm trying to say is that we always, one thing is the challenge, but we overlook the humanity of the startup world, and that's where that's where I think that's where I want to focus on the book, in the person. Yes, the challenges sometimes may not be even very big or very small, but sometimes they pile up, and then it has a toll in us as founders, and that's what I talk mostly about in the book, and that special chapter talking about the emotions, and looking into that, because I think that's what's most overlooked, the humanity the humanity of the founder. We look about what happened outside, but what happens inside, and that's where the growth and the magic happens. That's where we can start looking at ourselves. If we are coming from a place of anxiety, it's going to be very hard to convince someone to give a chance in your product. If we feel that our future, if we're so so insecure about our capacity to make things happen, that we feel like we need an investor because otherwise this project is going to fall, we transmit this anxiety. So we don't pay enough attention to our state, and our state, it totally influences from how we make decisions to how we are perceived, to the conversations that we want to take, to everything. And I feel like we treat ourselves as a black box, or the founder as if it was a black box, but all these things are happening within us, that I feel it's where we need to start looking to untangle all these overwhelm that we may have in the entrepreneurship.
What did you learn from the business coach that you hired, and how did you overcome that challenge?
What did I learn? I learned to look at myself, because we had a 1-hour sessions, and the first 50 minutes were usually to see what was happening with me and not about business. So that was very, very, very clear to me. And sometimes we would have a weekly meeting, but after 2 or 3 days, I would feel that again I needed him. I needed more than him. In retrospect, what I needed was a way to empty myself from all the accumulation of emotions, because we could have emotions up to here and be blocked by them. So we need to understand how our bodies can liberate themselves from that stress that we really don't need. That stress in the form of fear, confusion, anger, disappointment. If we have all that in our bodies, we're just going to be blocked and stressed. So we need to find ways to release that and go back to flow, clarity, openness, optimism, confidence. Yeah, that's what I learned.
When an aspiring entrepreneur is wondering what is the best way to prepare for life in entrepreneurship, some people will tell them that the best thing to do is to go to business school and get an MBA or a business degree. Others will tell them to use that same money and invest it in building their own startup. Others, like Tim Ferriss, will suggest that they take that money and use it to make angel investments, and that they will learn a lot from the angel investing process. Now, you have done all three of these things. What's your advice for an aspiring entrepreneur?
You are going to learn the most is being I would think being an entrepreneur. That's for sure. And give everything you have to make it happen. Come into the obstacles, try to solve them. However, I would also advise to be as much educated as possible before going into that. Hopefully learn a lot with someone else's money. And yes, and I would think most people have the lack, let's call it lack of or the opportunity to invest in other people's companies when they've had some, let's say, kind of success. I continue learning a lot from companies, and I see them from how the founders operate, but lots of companies have not worked out, and for reasons that I would have never thought. So again, you can learn in all areas, but I would think when you're trying to solve your own problems, and that's when you learn the most.
Based on your experience investing in dozens of startups, what are the key attributes of a successful entrepreneur?
I think it's very hard to tell when we look at why not only entrepreneurs but why companies succeed or not. I've seen lots of different studies. Some biggest attribute could be timing. Others would say that being a second-time entrepreneur is a huge advantage. One quote that I recently, well, not quote, something that I've been hearing a lot that resonates with my experience is that first-time entrepreneurs focus on the product, But second time entrepreneurs focus on distribution. What are the key qualities of an entrepreneur? I think the first one would be great conviction, determination in all those forms. You need to be relentless. In solving obstacle after obstacle, and lots of very often it's obstacles that you didn't even think they existed maybe 2 days before. So that's one quality. But another quality that I don't think we speak about very often is clarity. And I like to compare the same way that the determination is the engine. I think clarity is the steering wheel, and clarity is a quality that I value a lot.
So you've already achieved so much in your career, but I'm curious what legacy you wish to leave behind in the world. You're not going to die tomorrow,
Yes.
you know. Thinking ahead a little.
Hopefully not. I have a presentation coming up soon, so let's hold that. Let's make it last a little longer. I'm sure you guys. I've seen some of the episodes, and I would think you have lots of different guests. So I'm gonna try to give a little bit of a different answer. One of the things that I value a lot is the individual. So of course I want a cleaner planet, no wars, no conflict. But I think lots of that starts with lots of these state of confusion, fear, scarcity, lack starts with the individual. So my biggest message would be for each of us to take care of ourselves, take care of how we are feeling, how we are responding, how we are creating the circumstances we are creating for ourselves, for our families, and for our planet, but with an eye of where am I in all this? In which way could I have contributed to this happening, whether it's positive or negative? One of the things that I experience every time when I go to this meditation retreat is that as we start present, and present doesn't mean YOLO, let's have fun. It means to understand and be perceptive or conscious of what's happening within you. When you start being conscious of what's happening within you, then you stop being a mechanism, a robot, and then you start having choices. So let's say something happens to me. Let's say imagine you make a question for me that I think is very inappropriate, right? So if I respond like a robot, I could tell you, I don't know, you should have prepared better for this interview. You have no idea who I am. And let's say I could go on and say something like this. And that's because I would be giving a voice to a little fire within me. But instead of giving a voice to the little fire, I receive the little fire, I listen to a little fire, I can stay with it. Maybe instead of voicing it like that, I could say, let me think about this question. I haven't thought about this, or I'm not sure about this, but I will get back to you. Or can you give me more information so I can better understand your question? So you start having more openness, more air to breathe, and to lower the tension and come to union. So again, what I'm trying to say is let's look at our internal processes, pay attention to ourselves, and and that's the legacy that I would like to leave, for people to be more responsible for how they feel, for how they behave, and for the lives they create. And you respond in different ways. The world also responds in different ways. So that's the magic of this. And when the world responds in a different way, your life starts to change, and we stop seeing ourselves as victims, and we start seeing ourselves more as creators of our lives. And I do believe that we could be creating a very different life for everyone here in this planet. It doesn't take away from that. But instead of just trying to make everyone change, how about we look at ourselves first? That's where I'm trying to go.
Yeah, I'm really interested in what actually motivated you to, well, first of all, see that as your legacy. So personal experiences have formed that perception of the world and seeing that as such an important issue for you?
Experiencing that for myself. I did a 6-month, I don't know if we mentioned this, I did a 6-month meditation retreat. And this is one of the things that we get trained in seeing our emotions, in moving our emotions in a healthy way. But very often, when you have moved your emotions, you feel very differently about what you feel differently about the circumstance that happened, and you feel very different about your capacity to deal with the circumstance. So I've had lots of experiences in which I was very, very angry with someone. I would think this person were a really bad person. But after you empty and let go of your emotions, you almost forget. Someone could go from this guy ruined my life to you move your emotions, you become empty, to forget about this person. So when you forget about this person, you just continue happy with your life. You don't have this need for revenge, to wish anybody the worst, to take anything from anyone. But yeah, it's a constant practice, because of course I have my fair share of challenges. People not always respond to me like I want. But I keep seeing how when I take care of myself, what other people think, it has less of a weight on myself.
If you could leave our audience with a piece of advice for young entrepreneurs entering the world of business, what would it be?
I would really encourage entrepreneurs to put especially if they're young and they have so much to learn, to give a chance to this idea that they have in their hearts, that they learn as much as possible before they go all in with it, and that they pay attention to themselves. So the same way that they're going to give so much for their company to succeed, they're going to give their time, their energy, their money. Very often they will have to miss on important social events. So the same way that they're going to give so much for their company, to make sure that they are also learning from their company, but they're learning about the startup world, but also about themselves. When I get this kind of rejection, I feel like this, and then I explode with someone else. So to keep on looking at themselves and using their company to become more open, more confident, more wise, more clear thinkers, more optimistic, more of who they are. That's what I would invite everyone to do. When you're putting a lot into something, let's make sure that you're going to learn so much from that experience.
Which learning resources or books that had a major influence on you would you recommend for young entrepreneurs?
So I remember I was reading books all the time, but one that was recommended to me, and I'm not sure if it's so popular these days or in Europe, but The Art of the Start by Guy Kawasaki. I don't know if you guys have heard of that book. Someone recommended it to me, and again, I was so new, I was so innocent, I had everything to discover, and it started giving me this both understanding but also inspiration, that it's very close to my heart. And of course, I would recommend to, if the founder is so inclined, and they're going to buy a bunch of books, I would love for them to consider my book as well, which it shares some technical lessons, but it also focuses on themselves as a person. So if that's important for them, I would love for them to give it a chance as well.
Do you listen to podcasts?
I listen to lots of podcasts, but very different. Not only about business. Well, famous ones that I guess lots of people may have mentioned. So I listen to the Tim Ferriss podcast. I should have my phone, but a different one. Let me give you a couple of different ones. So Against the Rules is one that I like a lot, by Michael Lewis, who is an author of many books, and he has lots of stories. Another one that I like is A Slight Change of Plans, and by Maya Shankar. And to give you one more that's not necessarily for entrepreneurs, undercover. Undercover.
I'm considering writing a book. What are some of your key takeaways from the book writing process?
Lots of things that I've learned. Lots of books take years. It's become my new startup. I feel like I'm an entrepreneur again. I'm trying to promote my book, trying to bring my new product, selling toys, shoes, tech, books. It's like I am back at being an entrepreneur. So a couple of ideas would be to have some structure of what you want to talk about. Do you have a book in mind? Do you have anything in mind? Could we use that as an example?
The title I'm considering is The Young Entrepreneur's Handbook.
Let's say 3 different areas. So who could this be for? I don't know, what have I learned? What are other people, what are lessons that I've learned from other people? What's next? Again, I don't know how it would be, but there's resources. So you could have some different ideas. And then when you have a basic, just you could organize it in chapters, and each chapter you say, this chapter I'm going to share this story, this chapter I'm going to share this lesson, this chapter I'm going to share this insight. Again, let's say if you have 4 ideas, four sections, and then each section 3 or 4 chapters. You have your idea per chapter, 1 or 2 ideas, and then when you start writing, you write. For me, this has been the key lesson. When you start writing, you do not edit; you just write. We can have it's like if you're editing while you're writing, it's like having the gas and the brakes at the same time. There is a part of the brain that wants to create, and there's a part of the brain that tells you how shitty that is, how you could do that better, how you could be choosing other words. So you have your structure. And sorry, another thing that I didn't mention, you need to know who you're writing for. So I'm assuming it will be for someone very similar to you. That's a key element. Write for one person that you know very well, and only for that person. Have a person in mind. But then when you start writing, especially for your first draft, tell yourself, I know my first draft, it's not going to be the best, but my main goal is not to write the best book. My main goal now is to write the first draft. And after I have the first draft, then I can get other people to give me feedback. I can edit it. I can move things around. But right now, I just want to finish my first draft and put all your effort in finishing your first draft, never going back to a previous chapter. Just go, 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 go until the end. You will have a final product. It may not be the best, but now you have something that you can work with and you can edit, and other people can give you ideas on.
Before we close off, are you planning to start a new startup?
Yes, I would like to do it with people that know what they're doing. I would mean it would have to be, I would think, with the right people, because I would like to enjoy the experience. I would not like to go through what I went through with the first one, like let's say 6 years of struggle. No, I would like one with people that are, again, capable, clear, a startup that we could hopefully achieve milestones quickly, or at least get feedback from the market quickly, and about something that could be fun. So yes, I'm open to it, but it will have to be. I would need to think. I would need to visualize it in a very different way that the first one happened. Hopefully, more fun. Yes, I would like to have fun, and and startups that go well and grow, I think they could be fun.
We have come to the end of today's discussion, which was packed with great stories and insights and takeaways. On behalf of the Global Young Entrepreneur Society, Ricardo Jimenez, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
My pleasure. So thank you very much for having me on your show.